Hey there guys, this is Richard, your host, with another marvelous video. Brainiac, the tech-savvy terror from Colu, was a real piece of work in the DC universe. This android had a brain that just won't quit. He had a creepy hobby that was out of this world, literally. He zapped cities down into pint-sized souvenirs and kept them in his spaceship. Once he was done playing the Galactic Collector, he annihilated the planet, all to keep his knowledge collection exclusive. Top of his twisted treasure list was Kandor, the crown jewel of Krypton, Superman's turf. And get this, in some tales he was the mastermind behind Krypton going kaboom. Brainiac had a thirst for know-how, and thus we see him clashing with Superman and the Justice League more times than you can count. Earth was on his hit list too, which made him a major headache for our world's defenders. So, are we ready for this ride where we're about to hit up 11 of Brainiac's most unforgettable animated appearances, where he really puts the pressure on our hometown heroes? Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Temper, Jor-El. If you stop me, there won't even be a memory of Krypton.
Untold story of Brainiac and Jor-El. Jor-El was deep in his research in the icy Kryptonian north when Brainiac, the know-it-all supercomputer, appeared on his screen and demanded Jor-El's homework. Jor-El wasn't thrilled, but handed it over. Back home, as he reviewed his data, the numbers don't lie. Krypton was ticking down to doomsday. Sylvan, his father-in-law, dropped by to warn Jor-El that if he went public with his theory, he might lose his respect in the scientific circle and jeopardize his career. And the only way that wouldn't happen was if Brainiac was in his corner. Jor-El laid it all out for the Council of Krypton that the planet was ticking down to a meltdown. But the council, all comfy in their seats, decided to check with Brainiac, who shrugged off Jor-El's concerns and fears. But Jor-El was adamant. He knew betting it all on a machine over flesh and blood was playing with fire. Jor-El then pitched his rescue mission, which was way over the top for the council. He wanted to pack everyone off to the Phantom Zone, basically the universe's version of the Badlands, and later some hero would have to take a road trip to another planet to bust them out. Sounds like a plan. Despite the council disagreeing with Jor-El's plan, he stood his ground. He had a hunch and needed to see for himself what the AI was up to, so he marched over to Brainiac's HQ, only to find the door slammed shut on him. That didn't stop him though. He busted in and lo and behold, he was right. Brainiac was caught red-handed as he was busy downloading himself on a satellite to get out before Krypton went kaboom. When Jor-El called him out, Brainiac didn't even flinch. He confessed that he'd been playing dumb in front of the council and knew Krypton's days were numbered. For Brainiac, it was all about saving the Encyclopedia of Krypton over the people writing it. Jor-El was this close to wiping Brainiac off the map. But the sly AI played the legacy card because if Jor-El destroyed Brainiac, Krypton's history would forever be gone too. That moment of hesitation was all Brainiac needed to call in the goon squad with orders to shoot to kill. But Jor-El dodged the guards and dashed home. With no time to waste, he was already on Plan B, Operation Save Kal-El. He had this tiny spaceship which was originally part of a grander scheme to save everyone via the Phantom Zone, but was now just a life raft for his son. Sylvan offered himself up as a distraction, and thus bought time for Jor-El and Lara to get the spaceship launch ready, and with a heavy heart, Lara hit the big red button and kick-started the launch sequence. Meanwhile, up above, Brainiac's satellite completes the download and makes his great escape. The land trembled, which signaled the end of an era in Krypton. Amid the chaos, Jor-El and Lara sent their son Kal-El into the sky in a vessel of hope. The citizens of Krypton were gripped by fear as their homes crumbled, and a once great civilization was now a memory. Brainiac's destruction comes to Earth. In the vast emptiness of the desert, a solitary truck made its way to a bustling LexCorp site. Lois and Jimmy were there, clueless about the VIP Luthor was expecting. As they speculate, Luthor makes his entrance, and a spaceship descends. Brainiac, in all his robotic glory, flickered into view as a hologram. In a show of good faith, Luthor handed over a disc about Earth on a platter and was granted permission to step aboard. Elsewhere, Superman was asked to attend a Pentagon sit-down with Luthor, who informed them that Brainiac had shown a keen interest in a face-to-face with the caped hero. Superman flies out through the desert sky and boards Brainiac's ship. Initially, it was quiet, almost calm, until he stumbled upon some writing in the Kryptonian language. But before he could dig deeper, a squad of robots attacked him. Superman managed to fight them off, after which Brainiac appeared and apologized for the assault, which apparently was a test of Superman's might. Brainiac shared that he was also from Krypton and claimed that Jor-El saved him from the planet's destruction. Since then, Brainiac's traveled the universe, collected the knowledge of countless worlds and stored it in glowing orbs. He then invites Superman to join his quest across the universe. Superman mulled over Brainiac's proposition and drifts off to sleep. But rest turned restless as the orb's memories seeped into his dreams and unveiled Brainiac's treachery against Jor-El and his cold abandonment of Krypton. Jolted awake, Superman's trust in Brainiac crumbled. At LexCorp, Luthor's crew was ready to swap information with Brainiac. Superman arrived and cautioned Luthor about the AI's deceitful nature. Luthor, unfazed and confident in his missile arsenal, brushed off the warning. A frustrated Superman left to confront Brainiac directly. Back on Brainiac's ship, Superman discovered more orbs. He uncovered the horrifying truth that Brainiac was a destroyer of worlds. When confronted, Brainiac coldly explains the reasons for destroying every planet he visits. According to him, knowledge was power and priceless when it was rare. Enraged, Superman attacked Brainiac but was quickly restrained by the ship's automated defenses. Luthor, on the other hand, discovered Brainiac's betrayal. The data stream was out of his hands, and his missile, which was supposed to be his trump card, was disabled. Brainiac was now just one step away from pulling the plug on Earth's defenses. Superman busted out and managed to overcome Brainiac's muscle. He jammed Brainiac's control over the data flow, which gave Luthor a moment to fly his missiles. Missiles fly, but Brainiac wasn't going down without a fight. However, Brainiac weakened Superman's powers and even took out Luthor's missiles. But Superman had one last trick up his sleeve. He landed a blow that knocked out Brainiac's shields, and the missiles made their mark. As the ship crumbled, Brainiac begged Superman to save the orbs, not him. Superman snatched an orb, the last piece of Krypton, as the ship turned to space dust. Later, Superman stashed the orb up north into an icy nook in the Arctic with a hunch that he'd soon be back. Only time will tell.
I believe I can take it from here.
The Revenge of Brainiac. LexCorp was buzzing with anticipation as military brass and reporters, including our very own Lois Lane and Clark Kent, awaited Lex Luthor's big reveal. Mercy, Luthor's right hand, assured him all systems were up and running. Luthor stepped up and informed them that a few missiles were incoming. "Oh, just missiles? Nothing to sweat." But it was all part of the show, he claimed. He wanted to showcase, or instead flaunt, his new Sky Sentry, a tech marvel meant to neutralize such threats. Yet, when the moment of truth arrived, the Sentry choked. And well, Superman had to come in. That evening, while an agitated Luthor was working alone in his office, he received a cryptic call. The voice claimed that the Sentry was indeed sabotaged and pointed him to Sector 6. Luthor went to the place alone, only to be snatched up by a robotic arm and confronted with the image of Brainiac on screen, the mastermind behind the mayhem. Brainiac, who was now a digital ghost in Luthor's machines, revealed that he'd uploaded himself to Luthor's computers. The framework of his new body was ready, but lacked the finishing touches only Luthor's genius could provide. Luthor refused the demand, but his protests were silenced. Brainiac conjured a holographic Luthor and instructed Mercy to leave him undisturbed. With no exit and no one looking for him, Luthor had no choice but to work on Brainiac's form. Pushed to his limits, Luthor collapsed from fatigue and pleaded for food and sleep. Brainiac, unmoved by human needs, denied. Clark was determined to see Luthor, but was denied by Mercy. A quick X-ray confirmed Luthor's absence and suggested a baffled Mercy launch a search. From his lab prison, Luthor watched and noted that Brainiac's plan was nearly blown. Brainiac assured him that Clark and Mercy were mere flies in his way. As night cloaked the city, Brainiac launched a missile at Clark's apartment. In a flash, Clark becomes Superman, intercepts the missile, and hurls it toward the sea. Meanwhile, Mercy's rummaging through the security footage paid off. She pinpointed Luthor's whereabouts, but she was suddenly attacked by a swarm of robots. While she held her own, the numbers were against her. Just then, Superman arrived, and it was game over for the robotic horde of scrap metal. Superman traced the missile's trail while Mercy too joined the rescue. Luthor's resolve crumbled when he realized Brainiac's intent to dispose of him post-project. Despite his attempt to cease work, it was already too late. Brainiac's new shell was sufficiently operational. The lab was now a battleground for Superman and Mercy as they confronted Brainiac. Robots mobbed Superman while Mercy took on Brainiac. However, her efforts were futile against his upgraded defenses. Brainiac, with his new energy weapons, goes head-on with Superman. In a desperate moment, Mercy spots the sidelined Sky Sentry. She called out to Superman as he seized the weapon and unleashed a magnetic fury that overwhelmed Brainiac. The lab became a metal vortex, and everything was drawn to Brainiac's magnetized body. In the chaos, Mercy was pinned under a computer console. Luthor coldly abandoned her, but Superman rescued her from the crushing weight. Post-battle, while Superman departed, a conflicted Mercy grappled with her loyalty.
Welcome to Krypton.
Bizarro finds Brainiac's orb. Lois was on a mission and zoomed toward the mountain where Lex Luthor's old clone factory used to be. But there was a roadblock, and the guard refused to budge. However, Superman flew in and later gave Lois the brief. The lab was gone, and Bizarro was assumed to be dead. Meanwhile, Bizarro, who was very much alive, trudged through the snow and was on a hunt for a place to call home. A ski lodge became his pit stop when a TV newscast caught his eye. It revealed that Superman's crib was at the North Pole. With a spark of hope that it might be his home, he rushed to find his icy paradise. Soaring above the North Pole, he heard the chatter of animals from the fortress and crashed in. Glass everywhere, and out come the critters. One feisty lizard critter gets all up in his face. But hey, new pet alert. Then he stumbled upon Brainiac's shiny orb and fired it up. The orb mistook Bizarro for the Man of Steel and told him all about Krypton. In a bizarre twist at the Metropolis Cultural Center, Bizarro, in an attempt to recreate Krypton, began a chaotic renovation. He even kidnapped an usher whom he mistakes for Jor-El, his dad. Lois Lane arrived to investigate in the hope to calm the storm by accompanying Bizarro to his claimed home. Inside, things go south pretty soon when Krypto, the renamed alien lizard, attacks Lane. With a kryptonite gift in hand as Bizarro's housewarming gift, Superman confronted him. Surprisingly, the stone didn't affect Bizarro. A scuffle ensued and Krypto tore into Superman's protective suit. Lois jumps into action and tries to aid Superman. Meanwhile, Bizarro's grand plan to complete Krypton threatened to bring the house down, literally. In the nick of time, Superman managed to push the kryptonite away, which averted a disaster and ensured everyone was safe. Superman chased Bizarro to a missile base, where Bizarro had already hijacked a missile and sent it toward Metropolis. Superman's every move to neutralize the missile was blocked by Bizarro, who was hell-bent on reshaping Metropolis into his version of Krypton. It seemed Bizarro was in the mood for a total renovation of Metropolis. Superman then played his ace card, Lois. Bizarro, struck by the mention of Lois, zoomed off to protect her, which gave Superman the break he needed. With Bizarro gone, Superman swiftly averted the missile crisis, thus saving the city from its doom. Superman knew Earth couldn't handle Bizarro's unpredictable antics. He hatched a plan, guided Bizarro to a remote life-supporting planet, and staged a Krypton-like scenario after it was turned to dust. Bizarro wasn't thrilled at first, but lightened up on seeing Krypto, his pet lizard-turned-dog. Together, they start anew, and Bizarro finally finds peace in his own world.
Well done, Mr. Wayne. Brainiac.
Who's behind the disappearance of Bruce Wayne? Roxy Rocket's daring flight through Metropolis ended abruptly when Superman plucked her from her rocket. A reckless stunt puzzled Superman, especially when she revealed that Batman was missing and that Gotham was under a crime wave. Cut to Gotham, where a couple of thieves robbed a jewelry store when Robin stopped them. But surprisingly, the goons came with backup and guns blazing. Enter Superman, who took down the thugs with ease. He was on a mission to find Batman, and Robin sheds little light on the mystery. Batman was MIA, with Batgirl and Nightwing on a wild goose chase in Romania, and was chasing a lead on someone named Ghoul. Robin was alone to keep Gotham streets safe and noted the increase in crime without Batman in Gotham. Superman promised that they find him and bring him home. Atop Gotham's police department, Commissioner Gordon and an officer await the Dark Knight. Just when hope dimmed, Batman and Robin emerged from the shadows. Gordon informed that Bane was back, and he wasn't just back, he was stronger and thus posed double the threat. But what the police were unaware of was that it was the Man of Steel in Batman's suit. The duo then headed to Wayne Enterprises, where they found a puzzling message from Bruce. One said he was on vacation, while another claimed he was at work. The trail led to New Zealand, but something didn't sit right with them. When Superman, who was in Batman's suit, took a closer look in Bruce's office, he found nanites on the documents and a needle in the phone. A sure sign of mind control at play. Under the guise of Gotham's Guardian, Superman, alongside Robin, cornered the Penguin for information. With a bit of arm twisting, Penguin coughed up the details. Mad Hatter had a secret rendezvous planned with Riddler and Bane in the City of Shadows. But the villain's plan hit the brakes when Superman, incognito as Batman and Robin, intervened. Robin outsmarted the Riddler and cuffed him to a cage. Superman, in the Batsuit, took on Bane easily. Mad Hatter tried to escape, but against Superman's speed, he was as good as could. At the precinct, Mad Hatter admitted that the nanites weren't his, but were in fact alien tech. The mystery led Superman and Robin to the Batcave. They found a stray message to Lucius Fox and a whiff of rocket fuel. Robin puts it all together. Bruce was at Wayne Aerospace. At Wayne Aerospace, the crew was busy with a rocket that screamed Krypton. Bruce Wayne showed up and sent everybody home. The coast was clear. Brainiac, the puppeteer behind Bruce's vanishing act, stepped out into the light. He was ready to drop the ball on Bruce, but Superman interrupted. They clashed, and despite Brainiac's rocket taking flight, Superman wasn't one to give up the chase. They took their battle to the stars, where Superman, the last one standing, reduced Brainiac's skewed ambitions into space dust. Back on solid ground, Superman bids goodbye and leaves Gotham's finest to breathe easy once more. Will Brainiac destroy Superman? The year was 2979, and Metropolis was a haven of peace until Brainiac was up to no good. Again, he was after a power source called the antimatter accelerator, and after taking down the guards, gave his own few tweaks to the machine. He opened a brand new portal that he hopped through without a second thought. Back at the lab, the lead scientist has already hit the panic button and called in the big guns. The Legion of Superheroes, which included the Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl, and Chameleon Boy, arrived. They heard Brainiac's jump dimensions, and without any hesitation, went after him. They stepped out of the portal and were surprised that they were no longer in Metropolis. They landed in the middle of a farm just a stone's throw from Smallville. A local farmer caught them red-handed and thought our heroes were pulling a prank on him, but Saturn Girl gave him a little mental nudge to forget the whole thing, and then they were off to find Clark. Meanwhile, Clark was having the time of his life at the school dance until Kenny Braverman, his classmate, decided to pick a fight. One thing led to another, and suddenly Kenny was flying across the room, courtesy of Clark's not-so-normal strength. Clark tried explaining his new superpowers to Lana, but she just didn't understand. I don't blame her. Frustrated, Clark stormed out. He didn't get far before Brainiac decided it was round 2. But just as things looked bad for Clark, the Legion trio showed up, ready for action. Brainiac then decided to bail and teleported to who knows where. Clark and his new superhero pals were left to figure out their next move. Tucked away in a shadowy alley, Saturn Girl pulled out a pair of specs for Clark, a quick fix for a disguise. She filled him in on Superman's legacy and how he was a beacon of hope across the cosmos, and told him all about Brainiac's sinister comeback. Obviously, it was a lot to take in, and yeah, he does exactly what you think. Clark bolted. Back at his place, Lana greeted Clark, but their heart-to-heart was cut short when Brainiac made a house call. And he wasn't alone. Thanks to Kenny's loose lips, he was with his horde, which flooded in. The Kents ducked for cover in the basement, and Clark came clean with his X-ray powers. He smashed Brainiac's arm to bits, but Brainiac wasn't done. Not yet. He hijacked a threshing machine and a bulldozer. Clark didn't sweat, and if I were him, I wouldn't either. After all, his skin was tougher than steel. When Brainiac went one-on-one with Clark, the Legion jumped in. Although they gave it their all, Brainiac defeated them and abducted Clark. Without a second thought, Saturn Girl beamed instructions to Clark telepathically and guided him to flip the switch on Brainiac's teleportation belt and activate it. Zapped into the sun, Brainiac was toast. Come sunrise, Smallville was buzzing with repairs, and folks were convinced a mega-twister tore through town. Saturn Girl was at her job of wiping memories and made sure no one remembered about Brainiac's attack. She hit the delete button on Clark's memories too, and the Legion made their exit on Brainiac's floating chair. Superman vs. Brainiac on Apocalypse. Far off in the cosmos, Steppenwolf's fleet was getting hammered by a bigger, badder enemy, and thus he hollered to Apocalypse for help. Darkseid's right-hand man, Descendant, saw trouble brewing as they'd violated the new Genesis Treaty. But Darkseid played his hand anyway. Darkseid instructed Steppenwolf to stand his ground. But then, mid-scream, Steppenwolf's signal died, and Orion's image took over the screen. He had a nasty surprise for Darkseid from Highfather. It was Steppenwolf's ship that had crashed into a fire pit on Apocalypse. War machines go up in smoke, and Darkseid's palace gets a shower of debris. Crawling out of the rubble, Darkseid gets a call from Highfather, who laid down the law. One more step out of line, and it was game over for Apocalypse. At the Watchtower, John sympathized with Hawkgirl's predicament when she felt homesick. After all, the Justice League was like a club for cosmic castaways. But their trip down memory lane was cut short by sirens wailing. They regrouped with the rest of the gang: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Batman turned on his detective mode and picked up some weird vibes in the tower. And suddenly, Darkseid crashed the scene. An enraged Superman attacked him. Diana and John had to jump in to cool things down before the place fell apart. Darkseid wasn't there on his daily stroll. He wanted the League's assistance as Apocalypse was now on Brainiac's hit list. Superman was ready to let Apocalypse turn to dust, but Darkseid played the bigger picture for them. Brainiac wasn't stopping till he'd wiped every planet clean. Batman played the voice of reason and nudged Superman toward the high road. Superman caved in. Back at Apocalypse, Caliban threw everything they had at Brainiac's ship, but it was like tossing pebbles at a fortress. Superman, Hawkgirl, and John arrived, but even their might didn't scratch the surface. And Darkseid, though, had a trick waiting that just might be a game-changer. Batman and Wonder Woman flashed through a boom tube to New Genesis on a mission to recruit Orion against Brainiac. But as soon as they landed, they were greeted by a beast with a serious attitude problem. Wonder Woman was knocked out, and Batman was about to be launched until Forager, a bug, saved their skins with a well-timed buzz bomb into the creature's mouth. On their way to the city, the man the Leaguers were searching for showed up. Meanwhile, back on Apocalypse, Superman challenged Brainiac to a fight. Brainiac blasted Superman with a beam of pure energy, but he kinda underestimated our Man of Steel's prowess. Superman pried the shield open, and Darkseid jumped at the chance. He blasted Brainiac with a mega weapon, which left him defenseless. Caliban and his troops smashed the data-draining device to bits that were sucking up Apocalypse's databanks. Brainiac was now on the run, with the Justice League in pursuit. They followed him into an asteroid field, but oh no, it was a setup. They stared down a giant Brainiac-shaped asteroid rigged with tech and a lot of trouble.
I changed and evolved into what you see today.
Offer of Brainiac to Superman. Superman, John, and Hawkgirl were now on Brainiac's turf. When Superman refused Brainiac's offer to join his Kryptonian crusade, the clash officially kicked off. While the League quickly dismantled Brainiac's form, it wasn't that easy. Brainiac's essence was woven into the asteroid. Meanwhile, on New Genesis, it was a peaceful day for Highfather. But the calm was cut short when Orion and the Earth hero showed up with gloomy news from Apocalypse and the villainous Darkseid. Orion was all riled up and ready to rally the troops against Darkseid, but Highfather suggested playing by the treaty's rulebook. No meddling in Apocalypse's messy affairs, he said. But Orion argued that with the existence of Orion, there was peace on the line. Highfather agreed, but he very well remembered the cost both worlds had to pay the last time they were at war with each other, and commanded Orion to sit tight. Cut to Brainiac's asteroid, the Justice League was fighting a sea of metal minions. Out of nowhere, Darkseid suddenly entered and caught Superman and the crew off guard. With the heroes down, Darkseid smugly checked off his to-do list. Superman delivered to Brainiac. Back in New Genesis, Orion was set on one thing: take down Darkseid. Highfather's orders or not, he rushed the boom tube with Wonder Woman and Batman on his tail. In the heart of Brainiac's asteroid, Darkseid reminded Brainiac about their little arrangement, which was Superman in exchange for Apocalypse's safety. Out of curiosity, Darkseid inquired about Brainiac's game plan with Superman. It turned out Brainiac had hit a dead end evolution-wise, and he was eyeing Superman's Kryptonian DNA to evolve. As Brainiac began his little science project on Superman, Darkseid sneakily replaced Brainiac's brain with his mother box. Brainiac was trapped in his own head and forced to follow Darkseid orders to go after New Genesis. Meanwhile, Hawkgirl and Jean realized Darkseid's double cross. They were now on a rescue mission for Superman. While Orion was ferrying Batman and Wonder Woman out in space, they spotted Brainiac's base and headed straight toward it. Over on New Genesis, there was a surprise attack by Darkseid. Highfather ordered an evacuation of the entire city. When Hawkgirl and Jean arrived at Brainiac's asteroid, Darkseid, who had Brainiac under his thumb, commanded an army of drones to kill them, but John hijacked a drone to blast the rest. Just as they were about to be swamped, Orion, along with Batman and Wonder Woman, intervened. Batman smashed the console, freed Superman, and halted Brainiac's absorption of New Genesis. But every great victory came with a price, and the asteroid was set to self-destruct. While the Justice League exited, Superman stayed behind to handle some unfinished business. Somewhere else, Darkseid and Orion were in combat when Superman jumped in and trashed Orion's mother box to keep Darkseid from escaping. He challenged Darkseid to a final battle, of which Superman emerged victorious. Batman arrived and dragged a reluctant superhero and Orion to safety, leaving Darkseid to face the music alone as the asteroid went boom.
But for you, the end comes now.
The fusion of Brainiac and Lex Luthor. Justice League and Amanda Waller caught Brainiac red-handed. He was hijacking Lex Luthor's body in LexCorp's HQ. Brainiac had been squatting in Luthor's body and pulling the strings for years. Luthor's final task was to transfer Brainiac's consciousness into a more suitable form. Upon hearing this, the League leaped into action, but this Luthor-Brainiac combo was tossing heroes left and right with ease. Superman stepped in, but the hybrid morphed the building into a mechanical nightmare. To tell you the truth, it looked bad for the League. That was until John broke free and landed a hit on Brainiac that shattered his control. But Brainiac morphed the top of LexCorp into a massive skull-shaped warship, this time gunning for round 2. In a deadly team-up, Superman and Green Lantern landed the final blow, smashed the ship to bits and saved the day once again. The dust barely settled, but Batman claimed that the brawl felt like a walk in the park. The League had a sinking feeling that it was too quiet, too soon. Luthor, with Brainiac calling the shotgun in his brain, was walking deep in a sewer and was on a hunt for a place to catch his breath. Brainiac made it abundantly clear that Luthor was disposable. The Leagues discussed with Waller that Brainiac was now totally nanotechnology, and Cadmus's Darkheart tech was just what he wanted now. They tried contacting the Watchtower, but it had already been ambushed by the Ultimen clones. It was down to the original 7. At Cadmus, Luthor and Brainiac wasted no time and absorbed the Darkheart's technology. With new powers, it changed into a supercharged nightmare. This new entity, a dangerous cocktail of Luthor and Brainiac, was ready to hit Control-Alt-Delete on Earth's knowledge and then hit the refresh button. To give a tough fight to the League, Luthor and Brainiac created android doubles of the relentless 7. Each double confronted its original and poked at their deepest fears and insecurities. Despite these mental assaults, the League members stood firm, overcame their inner demons and defeated their doubles. They also succeeded in demolishing the machine, but Luthor Brainiac was just not willing to give up already. All of them were knocked out by energy beams, except for Flash. He skillfully dodged the attack but lost his balance. Luthor Brainiac then summoned nanotech guards to finish off Flash. But Flash broke free of his restraints and stood alone against the daunting enemy. As Luthor Brainiac began piecing his machine back together, Flash rocketed back toward him from the other direction. He ran at such a lightning speed that he lapped the globe in mere seconds and slammed into Luthor Brainiac with enough force to rip chunks of their android armor away. And he kept going, one blow after another. When Flash halted, he stripped away the rest of Luthor Brainiac's armor. This left Luthor exposed and defenseless at the bottom of a crater, while the League emerged victorious.
He still has something we need. We have to put up with him for the moment.
Did Brainiac survive? Lex Luthor made a daring prison break and was rescued by a group of supervillains who took him to a secret hideout deep in a swamp. Here, Grodd pulled back the curtain on his latest project, a secret society known as the Legion of Doom. Here, he offered the supervillains a safe haven and the liberty to form their own teams for independent missions, all for a cut of their earnings. But Luthor wasn't sold. His past quest for wealth and power now seemed petty after his brief union with Brainiac. He'd savored a fleeting moment of godhood. But then Grodd revealed his trump card, a fragment of Brainiac, the last of its kind on Earth. Luthor demanded the fragment, but Grodd had a condition that he must do a job for him. As Luthor hesitated, it was revealed that he'd been in conversation with an image of Brainiac, visible and audible to him alone. The image of Brainiac assured Luthor that his programming could be retrieved from the fragment. Realizing that he could resurrect Brainiac and reunite with him once again, Luthor agrees to join Grodd's army. At the Metro Tower, the Justice League's new home base on Earth, Shayera and Flash were keeping an eye on things. Just then, they discovered that a remote alarm had been triggered from the security system on Black Hawk Island, a treasure trove of advanced weapons and tech seized during World War II and beyond. Sensing a possible link to Luthor, Shayera, Flash, and Fire band together to investigate. Meanwhile, on the island, Luthor, Dr. Polaris, and the Key were busy breaching the island's defenses. Flash and the team made their way to the compound to find Luthor breaking into the compound's vault. The team breached the defenses and came face to face with Luthor. As the pressure mounted, Luthor set off the island's self-destruct countdown and made a quick exit with his crew. The League discovered that a vital box in the vault was empty. Back at the Legion's base, Luthor and his gang returned with their loot, which was the Spear of Longinus, a relic Hitler believed would make its holder invincible. When Luthor inquired about Grodd's plans for the spear, he told him it was worthless. Actually, the mission was simply a trial run to gauge Luthor's skills. Luthor's amusement quickly turned to anger when Grodd disclosed that Luthor must complete another task before he handed over the piece of Brainiac. Fuming with rage, Luthor hears Brainiac's voice in his head, which coaxes him to play along until they get their hands on the fragment.
You're going to help me collect some newly discovered pieces of Brainiac.
Luthor wants to resurrect Brainiac, but at the Legion of Doom's hideout, Lex Luthor was frantically trying to bring the last piece of Brainiac back to life. But it was futile. Tala suggested transmutation, but Luthor dismissed the idea. However, with no other choice, he grudgingly lets Tala work her magic on the piece. While it doesn't resurrect Brainiac, it gives Luthor a vision of where Brainiac's asteroid met its end. Armed with this new intel, he ordered the Legion to revamp the base. Once the makeover was done, the Legion gathered in the conference room. Luthor revealed that they would assist him in retrieving pieces of Brainiac from the cosmos. Luthor bared his plan. The Legion's headquarters had been transformed into a space with a cloaking field that now doubled as a hyperspace field. This would allow them to journey into space to recover the remnants of Brainiac. Tala had seen the extent of Luthor's fixation with Brainiac and decided enough was enough. She rekindled her alliance with Grodd and set him free. Rallying other rebels, Grodd demanded Luthor to turn the base around and give up. A fight erupted among the Legion members. The Grodd supporters outnumbered the others, but the Luthor followers were more powerful. Tala attempted to use her magic to halt Luthor, but he was one step ahead as he procured a magic talisman for protection. In the end, the Luthor supporters emerged victorious in the fierce battle. Luthor then engaged in a clash with Grodd. Despite his enhanced metal gauntlets, Luthor was no match for Grodd's raw power and was on the brink of being beaten to a pulp. But Luthor provoked Grodd, called him a mindless beast, and cleverly forced him to unleash his telepathic powers, just what Luthor had relied on to win this fight. With a flick of his belt, Luthor redirected Grodd's mind control power onto him and turned Grodd into an unwilling puppet of his. Forced to comply, Grodd knelt and conceded Luthor as his superior. Grodd then loaded himself into an airlock in which Luthor locked him. With a scornful goodbye, he dumped Grodd into space as Grodd swore deadly revenge. Luthor got down to business and gathered the debris with Brainiac's essence. He planned to use Tala as a mystical challenge to resurrect Brainiac, fully aware that the process would cost her life. Suddenly, time stood still for a moment, and an entity, Metron, appeared. He pleaded with Luthor to rethink his actions and cautioned him of disastrous consequences for the entire universe. Luthor brushed him off and asserted that he was on the brink of godhood and that nothing would deter him. As time sprung back into motion and the switch was flipped, Tala was engulfed in energy and screamed in pain as the process kicked off. A figure began to take shape within the smoke of the containment device. Beaming with triumph, Luthor announced to the Legion to behold their new lord and master. But as the smoke dissipated, it wasn't Brainiac who emerged, but Darkseid himself. Partially merged with Brainiac and more terrifying than ever, Darkseid expressed gratitude to the petrified Luthor and the Legion for bringing him back to life. He proclaimed that Earth would pay a heavy price. With that, Darkseid unleashed his power and obliterated the Legion's base in a massive blast. Marvelous verdict. In wrapping up, let's take a moment to appreciate Brainiac's grand entrances in the animated series Superman, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited. These appearances have left a permanent spot in the Hall of Fame of animated superhero sagas. His transformation from a frosty, methodical machine in the Superman series to an intimidating adversary in the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited series has been nothing short of one hell of a ride. Each cameo has peeled back a new layer of his character and cemented his position as one of the most intricate and captivating villains in the DC universe. So there you have it, folks. Brainiac, in all his animated glory, continues to dazzle and captivate audiences. But hey, what's your favorite Brainiac moment? Do tell. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.